The Ghost Protocol. The Last Stand. The blue marble that was Earth hung in space like a precious gem surrounded by hungry predators. 237 Krellian warships formed a perfect sphere around humanity's homeworld, their dark hulls gleaming with the promise of destruction. Each vessel was the size of a city, bristling with weapons that could crack continents and boil oceans. Admiral Thexvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Fist, watching the human world through his tactical display. His scaled hands gripped the command rail as he contemplated the final victory of his empire. The Krellians had conquered 47 star systems in the past decade, enslaving entire civilizations and adding their knowledge to the collective. Now only Earth remained free. Status report, Thexvar commanded, his voice a deep rumble that resonated through his chest cavity. All ships are in position, Admiral, reported his tactical officer. The human orbital defenses have been neutralized, their space stations destroyed. We detect no military vessels capable of threatening our fleet. Thexvar allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The humans had fought bravely. He would give them that. Their ships were inferior, but their tactics were unpredictable. They had managed to delay the inevitable for 3 months longer than most species, but now it was over. The Phantom emerges deep within the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Something stirred. The UES Phantom powered up its systems in complete silence, invisible to every sensor known to galactic science. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on her bridge, studying the tactical display that showed the Krellian fleet surrounding her homeworld. Ghost Protocol is active, Captain, reported Dr. Marcus Chen from his science station. We are completely undetectable. No electromagnetic signature, no thermal output, no gravitational displacement. As far as the universe is concerned, we don't exist. Captain Vasquez nodded, her dark eyes reflecting the determination that had made her the youngest captain in Earth's fleet. The Phantom was humanity's last hope, built in secret using technology that Dr. Chen had developed from studying quantum mechanics at a level no alien race had ever achieved. While other species had focused on bigger weapons and stronger shields, humans had learned to step outside reality itself. How long can we maintain the protocol? She asked. Indefinitely, Chen replied with pride. The quantum field generators create a bubble of space-time that exists parallel to normal reality. We can see out, but nothing can see in. We can interact with the physical world when we choose to, but we remain completely hidden. Commander Sarah Torres, the ship's first officer, studied the enemy formation. 237 ships, Captain. Even with our advantage, those are impossible odds. Not if we're smart about it, Vasquez replied. We're not here to fight them ship to ship. We're here to save lives and show them that humans are not prey. The invisible rescue. The Phantom moved through space like a whisper, passing between Krellian ships without triggering a single alarm. The alien vessels hung in formation, their crews confident in their overwhelming superiority. They had no idea that death itself was moving among them. But Captain Vasquez had not come to kill. Her mission was far more important than revenge. There, Chen pointed to his display. Krellian slave transport blood harvest. Long-range sensors detect human life signs aboard. Approximately 300 individuals. The slave ship was a massive, brutal-looking vessel designed to hold prisoners from conquered worlds. Humans taken from Mars colonies and asteroid mining. Stations were crammed into its cargo holds, destined for lives of servitude in Krellian territory. Take us alongside, Vasquez ordered. Minimal interaction with normal spacetime. We go in, get our people, and get out. The Phantom phased partially into normal reality, just enough for its boarding tubes to make contact with the Krellian ship. The alien guards never saw what hit them. One moment they were watching over human prisoners. The next they were unconscious on the deck as figures in advanced combat suits moved through their ship like ghosts. Dr. Chen led the rescue team through the slave ship's corridors. The Krellian technology was impressive but predictable. Every lock, every barrier, every security system was designed to keep prisoners in and enemies out. They had never imagined an enemy that could exist outside the normal rules of physics. This way, Chen whispered, his suit's systems automatically hacking into the ship's computer network. The humans are being held in Cargo Bay 7. What they found there broke their hearts. 300 humans, including children, crammed into cages barely large enough for half their number. The conditions were horrific, but the prisoners were alive. A young girl, no more than 10 years old, looked up at Chen's armored figure with eyes that had seen too much suffering. "Are you real?" she whispered. "We're real," Chen replied, his voice gentle despite the combat suit's electronic modulation. "We're here to take you home." The first impossible victory. The rescue took 17 minutes. By the time the Krellian guards regained consciousness, 300 humans had vanished without a trace. The security cameras showed empty corridors. The sensors detected no intruders. The locks had never been breached. The prisoners had simply disappeared. Admiral Thexvar received the report with growing confusion. "What do you mean they vanished?" "Admiral, we've reviewed every system on the Blood Harvest," his intelligence officer explained. "The humans were there, and then they weren't. No signs of transport, no energy signatures, no hull breaches. It's as if they never existed." "That's impossible. Prisoners don't simply disappear." The guard captain swears he saw armored figures, but the security recordings show nothing. He's requesting medical evaluation for possible neural contamination. Thexvar's scaled features tightened with concern. In 40 years of military service, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans were supposed to be defeated, their technology inferior, their resistance broken. Yet somehow they had conducted an impossible rescue operation right under his fleet's nose. "Double the security on all prison ships," he ordered, "and run full-spectrum sensor sweeps of the surrounding space. I want to know what we're dealing with." The growing fear over the next 6 days, the impossible became routine. Krellian ships throughout the fleet began reporting mysterious incidents. Guard posts would go silent, only to be found empty with no sign of struggle. Weapon systems would malfunction for no detectable reason. Crew members would disappear from their posts, only to be found unconscious in escape pods drifting in space with no memory of how they got there. The Phantom struck again and again, each time rescuing more human prisoners and leaving the Krellians increasingly paranoid. Captain Vasquez's crew worked with surgical precision, using their quantum advantage to walk through enemy ships like they were made of smoke. "Captain, we've rescued over 2,000 humans so far," Commander Torres reported. "But the Krellians are starting to adapt. They're implementing random security protocols, moving prisoners frequently, keeping ships in constant motion." "Good," Vasquez replied. "Fear makes them inefficient. The more resources they waste on security theater, the less they can focus on their real objectives." Dr. Chen looked up from his analysis station. "Captain, I'm detecting something interesting in their communications traffic. The Krellian crews are developing superstitions about us. They're calling us void spirits and death shadows. Some ships are reporting crew members refusing to work alone." The psychological impact was exactly what Vasquez had hoped for. The same Krellians were a hierarchical society built on the assumption of technological superiority. They conquered through overwhelming force and the certainty that resistance was futile. But humans were showing them something they had never experienced, an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't fight, and couldn't understand. The Admiral's dilemma. Admiral Thexvar stood in his private chambers, studying reports that made no sense. His fleet had gone from confident conquerors to nervous guards, jumping at shadows and seeing enemies everywhere. Morale was plummeting, and several ship commanders had privately requested permission to withdraw from the system. "Sir," his aide entered nervously, "we've received another impossible report. The prison ship Bone Grinder has lost all its human cargo. 500 prisoners gone without a trace." "How many guards?" "Found unconscious, sir. No injuries, no memory of the incident. The ship's computer shows no record of intrusion." Thexvar's tail lashed with frustration. In all the collective's history, no species had ever demonstrated technology like this. The humans seemed capable of existing outside the normal laws of physics, moving through solid matter, appearing and disappearing at will. "Perhaps," his aide suggested carefully, "we should consider the possibility that the humans have abilities we don't understand. The other conquered species show no signs of similar capabilities." You're suggesting they're somehow superior to us? Thexavar's voice carried a dangerous edge. I'm suggesting they're different, sir. Every species we've conquered has relied on conventional technology. Bigger ships, stronger weapons, better shields. The humans seem to have taken a completely different path. The Admiral considered this. The Krellian Empire had grown powerful by absorbing the knowledge of conquered civilizations. Each species added their unique discoveries to the collective's understanding. But what if humanity had discovered something beyond their comprehension? What if the humans had unlocked secrets of the universe that made conventional warfare obsolete? The revelation on the seventh day, Captain Vasquez made her decision. The Phantom had rescued over 4,000 human prisoners, but thousands more remained in Krellian hands. More importantly, Earth itself was still under threat. It was time to reveal humanity's hand. Dr. Chen, prepare to drop Ghost Protocol, on my command. Full tactical display active. I want them to see exactly what they're dealing with. Captain, Torres protested, if we become visible, they'll target us with everything they have. Let them try, Vasquez replied with a cold smile. It's time these aliens learned what happens when you threaten humanity. The Phantom positioned itself directly between the Krellian fleet and Earth, a single small ship facing hundreds of massive warships. On Vasquez's command, the Ghost Protocol deactivated, and the human vessel appeared on every enemy sensor simultaneously. Admiral Thexavar's bridge erupted in alarms as the impossible became visible. All weapons target that ship, he commanded. Maximum power, destroy it now. 237 Krellian warships opened fire simultaneously. The space around the Phantom filled with energy beams, plasma bolts, and antimatter missiles. The combined firepower was enough to sterilize a planet. When the weapons fire cleared, the Phantom remained exactly where it had been, completely unharmed. Ghost Protocol reactivated, Dr. Chen reported calmly. No damage sustained. On his bridge, Admiral Thexavar stared in disbelief at his tactical display. Every weapon in his fleet had missed. Not deflected, not absorbed, but missed entirely, as if they had fired at empty space. How? He whispered. The answer came in the form of a transmission from the human ship. Captain Vasquez's image appeared on every screen in the Krellian fleet, her voice carrying to every crew member simultaneously. Admiral Thexavar, she said, her tone professional but firm. I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Phantom. For the past week, my crew and I have been moving through your fleet, rescuing human prisoners and observing your operations. We have done this without firing a single shot or causing a single casualty. The transmission continued across all Krellian channels, impossible to block or interrupt. Your weapons cannot touch us because we exist outside the reality you understand. We are not ghosts or spirits. We are humans who have learned to step beyond the limitations that bind other species. And we are offering you a choice. The surrender broadcast. The choice Admiral Thexavar felt something he had never experienced in 4 decades of military service. Genuine fear. The human captain's words echoed through his flagship's bridge as every member of his crew stared at the tactical display showing a single enemy ship that had somehow made itself untouchable. You have 2 options, Captain Vasquez continued, her image clear on every screen throughout the Krellian fleet. You can continue this pointless siege of Earth, wasting your resources while we systematically rescue every human prisoner in your fleet. We will continue to move through your ships like shadows, appearing and disappearing at will until your crews are too terrified to function effectively. Thexavar's clawed hands gripped his command throne. Around him, bridge officers who had conquered dozens of worlds exchanged nervous glances. The confidence that had carried them through countless victories was cracking like ice under pressure. Or, Vasquez's voice became warmer, almost diplomatic. You can choose a different path. Withdraw from Earth space, release all human prisoners, and open negotiations for a peaceful coexistence between our species. Humanity is not your enemy, Admiral. We could be your greatest ally. The demonstration. The transmission ended, leaving the Krellian fleet in stunned silence. Thexavar's tactical officer was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. "Admiral, the human ship has disappeared from our sensors again. All ships maintain formation," Thexvar ordered, though his voice lacked its usual conviction. "Continue monitoring for—" Alarms erupted across the bridge as proximity sensors detected something impossible. The Dominion's Fist was the largest ship in the fleet, protected by shields that could deflect asteroid impacts and armor thick enough to withstand plasma bombardment. Yet somehow, the human vessel had materialized inside his ship's docking bay. "Security. Teams to Docking Bay 7, Thexvar commanded. "Seal all bulkheads, prepare to repel boarders." But when the security teams arrived at the docking bay, they found something that challenged their understanding of reality. The Phantom sat peacefully in the landing area, its boarding ramp extended, with Captain Vasquez standing at the bottom, holding her hands out to show she was unarmed. "I'm here to talk," she called out to the stunned Krellian guards. "No weapons, no tricks, just a conversation between military professionals." Face to face. 20 minutes later, Captain Vasquez sat across from Admiral Thexvar in his private conference room, 2 cups of an acceptable human beverage steaming between them. The Krellian admiral studied his enemy with the intensity of a predator trying to understand prey that had somehow become a threat. "How?" he asked simply. Vasquez smiled, recognizing the weight of that single word. "Humans think differently than other species, Admiral. While the galaxy focused on building bigger weapons and stronger shields, we explored the fundamental nature of reality itself. We discovered that the universe has layers, dimensions that exist parallel to the one we normally inhabit." She gestured to the walls around them. "Your ship exists in normal space-time. My ship can step sideways into quantum space where the normal rules don't apply. We can see you, interact with your reality when we choose to, but remain completely undetectable. But why reveal this to us? You could have continued your invisible war indefinitely." "Because war isn't the answer," Vasquez replied with conviction. "Every species your empire has conquered has tried to fight you with conventional weapons. They failed because they were playing by your rules, using your definitions of warfare. Humans refuse to be limited by conventional thinking." Thexvar leaned back in his chair, his reptilian features showing confusion. "Then why aren't you conquering us? With this technology, you could destroy every ship in my fleet without risk." "Because destruction isn't victory, Admiral. It's just destruction." Vasquez's eyes held steady contact with the alien commander. "Humanity has learned something that your empire hasn't. The strongest civilizations are built on cooperation, not conquest." The spreading panic while their commanders talked, the crews of both fleets were experiencing very different emotions. Throughout the Krellian armada, word was spreading about the impossible human ship that had materialized inside their flagship. Rumors flew from ship to ship, growing more fantastic with each retelling. Some said the humans had mastered death itself, becoming spirits that could walk through walls. Others claimed they had allied with beings from another dimension. The truth was somehow more terrifying than the myths. Humanity had simply evolved beyond the Krellians' ability to understand or counter. On the Phantom's bridge, Dr. Chen monitored Krellian communications with growing amazement. "Captain, their command structure is breaking down. Individual ships are requesting permission to withdraw. Some crews are refusing orders. They're calling us everything from demons to gods." Commander Torres added her own observations. "The psychological impact is beyond what we projected. These aren't just soldiers afraid of superior weapons. They're sapient beings confronting something that challenges their entire worldview." Meanwhile on Earth, humanity watched the skies with desperate hope. The orbital bombardment they had expected never came. Instead, the alien fleet hung motionless in space, apparently paralyzed by something they couldn't understand. The moment of truth, Admiral Thexvar returned to his bridge after 2 hours of conversation with Captain Vasquez. His crew looked to him for orders, for some plan that would restore their sense of superiority and control. Instead, they saw an officer who had been fundamentally changed by what he had learned. "Communications," he commanded quietly. "Open a channel to all ships in the fleet." Every Krellian vessel received his transmission simultaneously. Hundreds of captains and thousands of crew members listened as their supreme commander spoke words that would echo through galactic history. "Fellow warriors," Texvar began, his voice carrying the weight of his years and the wisdom of his position. "Today, we have encountered something unprecedented. The humans possess technology that makes conventional warfare obsolete. They can move through our defenses as if they don't exist. They can strike at us without being touched in return." Murmurs of concern rippled through the fleet's communication channels. Some captains were already plotting coordinates for retreat. "But," the admiral continued, "they have chosen not to destroy us. Instead, they have offered us something no conquered species has ever received, a chance for genuine partnership." The conference channel erupted with protests. Captain Zorthak of the Blood Reaper was the most vocal. "Admiral, we are Krellians. We do not negotiate with prey species. We conquer." "And how has that served us here?" Thexvar's voice cut through the objections. "We came to conquer Earth with the most powerful fleet in our history. Instead, we have learned that our entire military philosophy is obsolete. The humans have shown us that there are forms of power we never imagined." The decision Captain Vasquez had returned to the Phantom, but she had left behind something more valuable than weapons or threats. She had planted the seed of possibility. For the first time in their imperial history, the Krellians were forced to consider that their way might not be the only way. Admiral Thexvar stood before his tactical display, studying the blue world that had defied his empire's might. Earth hung in space like a beacon of something new, something that challenged every assumption his species had made about strength and power. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "Captain Vasquez is transmitting again." The human captain's image appeared on the main screen, her expression serious but hopeful. "Admiral Thexvar, you've had time to consider our offer. I want you to know that this decision will echo through the galaxy. Every species watching this confrontation will learn from what happens here." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. "You can be remembered as the admiral who finally brought humanity to heal through superior firepower. Or you can be remembered as the leader who recognized that true strength comes from wisdom, not weapons." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of ship systems. Thexvar looked around at his crew, seeing uncertainty where there had once been confident aggression. These were good soldiers who had served with honor, but they were facing something beyond their training or experience. "Captain Vasquez," he said finally, his voice carrying across both fleets. "The Krellian Empire has spent centuries believing that might makes right. We have conquered world after world, adding their knowledge to our collective while enslaving their people." He straightened his shoulders, making the most important decision of his career. "Today, we learn a new way. I am ordering the complete withdrawal of all Krellian forces from this system. All human prisoners will be released immediately and provided with transport home. And I am requesting formal negotiations between our species for a treaty of mutual cooperation." The surrender. That wasn't. The word surrender was never spoken, but its meaning hung in space between the two fleets. For the first time in galactic history, a Krellian armada had chosen retreat not because they were defeated in battle, but because they had encountered something that made battle itself seem primitive and pointless. Throughout the alien fleet, the response was mixed. Some ships began powering down weapons and releasing human prisoners immediately. Others held position, their captains unable to accept this radical departure from everything they had been taught. Captain Zorthak's voice crackled through the fleet communications. "This is madness. We outnumber them 200 to 1. Admiral, order the attack." "No," Thexvar replied firmly. "I have seen what these humans can do. More importantly, I have seen who they are. They could have slaughtered us all without risk to themselves. Instead, they chose mercy. That is not weakness, Captain. That is strength beyond our understanding." The Blood Reaper broke formation, accelerating toward Earth in a suicidal attack run. Its captain's rage had overcome his judgment, leading him to choose death over what he saw as dishonor. The ship never reached its target. The Phantom appeared directly in its path, Ghost Protocol deactivated, so that every sensor in both fleets could witness what happened next. Instead of destroying the attacking vessel, Captain Vasquez did something unprecedented. She boarded it. The final lesson, 20 minutes later, Captain Zorthak found himself standing in his own bridge, unharmed but surrounded by human soldiers who had somehow walked through his ship's defenses like they were made of air. His crew was unconscious but uninjured. His weapons were disabled but not destroyed. Captain Vasquez stood before him, her expression sad rather than triumphant. "Captain Zorthak, your admiral chose wisdom. Why didn't you?" The Krellian officer's rage was still burning. "Because I am a warrior. I do not surrender to inferior species." "And what has your warrior spirit accomplished?" Vasquez gestured to his disabled ship. "Your crew is defeated, your weapons are useless, and your ship is dead in space. But everyone is alive. If I were truly your enemy, if I shared your definition of strength, this conversation would be taking place over your grave." She stepped closer, her voice becoming gentle but firm. "True warriors protect life, Captain. They don't throw it away for pride." When the boarding party returned to the Phantom, they left behind a changed Krellian captain. Zorthak stood on his bridge, staring at intact systems and living crew members, finally understanding what Admiral Thexavar had realized. The humans had redefined what it meant to be powerful. The broadcast Admiral Thexavar's final transmission was broadcast not just to his fleet, but across the entire galaxy. Every species that had fallen to Krellian might, every world that lived in fear of imperial expansion heard his words. "This is Admiral Thexavar of the Krellian Imperial Fleet. Today marks the end of our siege of Earth and the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. Humanity has demonstrated capabilities that make our previous methods of conquest obsolete. More importantly, they have shown us that strength without wisdom is merely destruction." The transmission reached dozens of star systems carrying hope to enslaved worlds and fear to other aggressive empires. The message was clear. Humanity had emerged as a galactic power, not through conquest but through the demonstration of abilities so advanced that warfare itself became pointless. The Krellian Empire hereby recognizes Earth as a sovereign world, and humanity as an equal partner in galactic affairs. All hostilities cease immediately. All human prisoners are to be released and repatriated, and I personally request an audience with human leaders to discuss how our species might work together, rather than against each other. The new Galaxy A's. The Krellian fleet began its withdrawal from Earth space. Captain Vasquez stood on the Phantom's bridge, watching the massive alien ships turn away from her homeworld. The victory felt strange because it hadn't required a single shot fired in anger. "Captain," Dr. Chen reported, "we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. The news of our demonstration has spread. 12 species are requesting diplomatic contact. 3 more are asking for protection from their own oppressors." Commander Torres added, "Earth Command is asking when we'll be returning home." Vasquez considered the question. The Phantom had been built as a weapon of last resort, designed to strike at enemies who couldn't be defeated through conventional means. But it had become something more, a symbol of humanity's refusal to accept limitations, to be bound by other species' definitions of what was possible. "Set course for home," she ordered, "but prepare long-range communications. I have a feeling we're going to be very busy in the years ahead." The Ghost Protocol had done more than save Earth. It had announced to the galaxy that humanity would not be ignored, conquered, or underestimated. In choosing mercy over destruction, diplomacy over warfare, humans had demonstrated a form of strength that no other species had imagined. As the Phantom engaged its quantum drive and stepped sideways into the space between realities, Captain Vasquez smiled. The galaxy would never be the same. And for the first time in human history, that was exactly what they had intended. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human leadership had begun.